Tony, the Chargers finish up camp, you go on vacation, and all of a sudden, tank top season here on Nuts and Bolts? Well, I got you. I put on a tank top as well, just for
Let's
you.
party.
Let's get to it. It's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes.
San Diego Chargers are fortunate to have Lance Allworth.
On blue, ready?
Don Coryell.
Touchdown, San Diego! Woo!
Thank God it's Friday, and it's another episode of Nuts and Bolts. We got a special treat for y'all today, so stay tuned. But first, Tony Tucker, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. The tank top is necessary, Mike. It's legit 100 degrees inside my garage, and so there's going to be a lot of exposed arms this summer while we're talking Chargers football. Otherwise, I'm just going to move my setup into the house, and my wife will not have that. She will not allow all this Chargers stuff to be strewn about her home.
Sun's out, guns out, Tony. That's the phrase I'm going with. Yeah, it's been hot here, too. If you guys don't know, me and Tony live like an hour away, different sides of LA, and it gets hot here. It gets hot as hell.
Yeah, today I think it was like 99 or something outside. So my garage.
And it's just getting ready. It's just getting started. Out there it's getting just started, Tony.
Whew, good thing I got the pool. Go take a dip. I'll be good.
Yeah, I have one too.
I got a very nice life. Speaking of all this heat, ladies and gentlemen, stick around for this entire episode, and we want to see you guys in the comments talking about where we hit or miss these players, our predictions for the NFL Top 100, right? Because I honestly believe this, and I'm writing a blog about it right now, is 10% of the top 100 players are going to be powder blue this year. 10% of
that's
the
10.
top 100.
If you're bad at math, that's 10.
Yes. I was told there would be no math. I graduated from night school. So
the thing is, Tony, if we have 10 players on the top 100 list, that means that half of the Chargers starters make the top 100 list also. It's impressive. That is something.
It's very impressive. We'll be getting down. So we're going to start at 1. We'll work our way down into the hundreds area there. But I think I would also like to hear from you guys. And I know we've had some very active comments recently. Thank you to James. He had a great comment on the last video. I want to hear who you think could be on the list next year, because we are going to be giving those at the end of the show. Which players could shine that didn't make the list this year, but in 2022. Mike, explain how we did our rankings.
Okay, so here's how the graphic works, everyone. We're going to go through the 10 players that me and Tony agree will probably be on the list or not be on the list. But what we're doing is Tony predicted where these players will be on the top 100 list that is going to drop in August. Those are the top 100 players for the 2021 season, but it's dropping in 2022. We had to work this out for the show because we were a little bit confused by it. And then my ranking, my number is where I think that the players will rank after the 2022 season in 2023. So on next year's list, when it comes out and they're talking about the 2022 season, that is my ranking. And I also put in there the ranking that they had last year, which was 2020 technically, but they released the list in 2021 after the 2020 season. Hopefully everyone can hold on to that. Tony's number is where they will be for the 2021 season. My number, 2023 or 2022 season, 2023 release, and the other number was last year's list for the 2020 season. So Herbert's rookie year was the list for the 2020 season. Just keep that all in mind when we're going over all of this stuff. And
they'll catch up. They'll catch up. Let's go to our first player. Who do we got?
All right, everyone, just ease with us. Remember, Tony's is where he thinks he's going to be for the 2021 season, what Herbert did last year. Mike's is what I think Herbert's going to be after 2022. And in 2021, Herbert was ranked at 55. Tony, I'll let you go first. You're obviously probably seeing my little baby face and the number 1 there. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I am, and I love it. And I couldn't agree with you more about where he will be on the list coming out in August of 2023, especially if my 60 touchdown prediction that also made it up on my prediction board there, my prediction wall. But the reason I have him between 10 and 20 and not just flat out in the top 10 is because I think they're going to have 4 quarterbacks that'll still be in the top 10 up there. I think Josh Allen is going to be the highest ranked one. I think they're still going to squeeze in Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers. And I think that Justin Herbert will fall somewhere in that 12, 13 range, like when all is said and done, like right there on the list. Because you still got to remember they're going to have Aaron Donald in there somewhere. They're probably going to give a look to somebody like Jonathan Taylor, who had a crazy year last season. TJ Watt is probably going to fall in that top 10 somewhere. Jalen Ramsey is probably going to be pushing that top 10 in the DB range. So, like, I think when all is said and done, Herbert's probably going to end up 12 or 13. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for the upcoming list after Herbert's performance last year, I could see the same thing. I have a similar opinion to you. 10 to 20 seems fair. If he's outside the top 20, they might have robbed him a little bit. I feel like 19 should be a minimum. I mean, we're talking about one of like 15 total 5,000-yard seasons ever put up by a quarterback before, and he did it in his second year. I also keep in mind with these rankings, and when I was looking at the list, I saw it a lot too, especially with like Keenan, with Bosa, even with Mike a little bit. When I'm looking at where I think they might land, is that a lot of this goes off of player to player respect, because the players actually vote on this list. So you can see where a guy hit his point. And when you're looking at some of these lists, like for example, when you look at the list and you see where Rashawn Slater is put, compare that to where Trent Williams is. I mean, can Slater take a Trent Williams-like leap next year? Yes. And can Slater get to where Trent Williams is ranked by next year? Yes. But after a rookie year, even if you performed at that level, those players aren't going to put you at 25, wherever the hell Trent Williams ends up. So yeah. I think this is a fair ranking. Now we'll move on to my ranking. Like we said, my predictions for Justin Herbert, I'm going to stay across the board with this. My predictions for the Chargers is that they win 13 games and win this and go all the way to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. I have Herbert going for over 50 touchdowns on a 13-win team, which means I have Justin Herbert winning the MVP award. I have Justin Herbert winning the MVP award, winning the Super Bowl, and winning Super Bowl MVP. He's going to be number 1 if that comes true. If that doesn't come true, that means that I was off on all of my predictions. But he's going to be number 1 if that comes true, and Herbert has the talent to do it. It's all about earning that respect. He comes in at, 15 this year, and then has an MVP season, record-breaking season. He's going to jump to number 1, Tony, because I don't know. Patrick Mahomes was number 1 on the last list that was released. And after last year, maybe he might be like 3 or 4 or 5. I'm not sure.
I think next year, somewhere around 7 or 8 this year.
Yeah, no Tyreek Hill next year. Maybe he falls even a little bit more. But if Patrick Mahomes can get on 1 for what he did in the season that the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl and lost, then Herbert definitely can get there off of a win and an MVP award. I
agree. I think he went there after the loss in the AFC Championship game, right? Wasn't it the play where D Ford jumped off sides? The year he had 50 touchdowns. Chiefs should have won, but D Ford was off sides. Then Brady came back and made the little completion to. Anyways, who cares about the Patriots and the Chiefs? But anyways,
that's 19. I think this is off of the loss to Brady again, but with the Bucs in the Super Bowl when they didn't have an O-line, and he's doing these weird flings. His receivers can't catch the ball. The receivers that he has to use this year can't catch the ball.
Let's stay focused on the Chargers. Move on to the next person on the list.
Okay, yeah. Here, last glimpse at Herbert's here, and here's the next player on the list. Hopefully, I get this in the right order. I think maybe Mack should have been a little bit higher, but Joey Bosa in 2021, he was ranked on the last list. Remember, 32. Tony, you have him kind of coming in a similar spot, and exactly that's what I'm talking about with the respect thing. At a certain point, you just hit that level of respect, and they're going to keep putting you in a spot like this over and over again. But what are your opinions on where Bosa is going to come on the list in August based off his 2021 performance?
I think he slots right back in the early 30s again, right? Somewhere in between that 32 to 35 range, because again, the respect factor, he's ranking high in all of those number of times he's double teamed, and his win rate against the double team, and his QB pressures are ranked super high. So like, I just think the consistency of every year having multiple forced turnover, like forced fumbles that are recovered by your team, 9, 10, 11, 12 sack seasons every year. He's very consistent. I felt like he had a very strong year last year, and people will recognize that as him being one of the top 3-4 pass rushers on here. Like if we have Aaron Donald in there, and then we have Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, like he'll be slotting somewhere up there with those players.
Yeah, I like it, and I agree with you. I have him 20 to 30 for next year's, and that's only because I think he's going to have a career year this year. He's going to have the best year of his career. I see him breaking every total except for sacks. It's a little tough. I think his career high is 14 or something like that. That's just a tough number to hit. But I think he'll break every other total. But like I said, the respect thing. Bosa already earned his respect. So Bosa is ranked where he's going to get. He's reached his ceiling probably when it comes to players ranking Joey Bosa. People remember, though, Joey Bosa's 27 years old, y'all. He ain't no old man coming out here. Yeah, he might be in year 8 or whatever it is. This man is young and hungry and ready to go with Khalil Mack on the other side. Last year, 32. Tony's thinking similar. I'm thinking the same thing after next year. I said 20 to 30, maybe like 25, 28. We'll see how much of a great year Bosa has this year.
Yeah, well, I think that if the sack total gets up there in the mid-teens, right, if we're looking at 15, 16 sacks, and again, these players look at your regular season, but then if you go on and you do stuff in the postseason, that's when they like give the extra respect for you to be able to be out there every week, be productive. Nobody can slow you down. But then on the biggest stage, you make that jump. And that's where we need to see Bosa in some playoff games, having those double-digit sacks, having the forced fumbles, those things, tackles for loss, shutting down a whole side of the run game. If he can do that, then yeah, he's probably closer to 21, 22 next year if he puts those crazy numbers and some playoff performances on the board.
I'm with you 100%. All right, here's a more interesting one because Khalil Mack obviously in 2021 played 6 games. We're going to see where he ends up on the list. But before last year, he was on the list at 23, which is really high. I mean, for people that say he's washed, to see NFL players still putting him at 23 less than a year ago. But anyways, Tony, you think that he goes back to like a 35-45 situation for this upcoming list? That has to do with injury. But what is your opinion on Mack and where he'll rank on the list? And he's definitely still on the list, even though he had an injury season last year.
Yeah, so he had some injuries last year, but I don't think that will knock him off. You don't go from 23 to off the list, right? Mm-hmm. So I think I have him somewhere falling in that 35 to 45 category. I think it's probably closer to like between 39 and 41. If I was going to bet some money, like that is where I would really narrow it down to, because even in those however many games he played last year, he still had half a dozen sacks. He still was very productive in that time and then had the foot injury. So if we're looking at that, and then there's just the height, the renewed players are impressionable just like fans. They see what's on the TV. They see Khalil Mack they see him going up with Bosa. They see how pumped he is. And I think that they know what kind of player he is, and they know what kind of player he will be teamed up with somebody like Bosa and Sebastian Joseph Day and Austin Johnson, Derwin James, JC Jet. Let's just alphabet soup right there of how wonderful this defense is loaded with talent.
And the secondary is going to help the defensive line have more time to get to the quarterback. And the defensive line is going to help the secondary have quarterback less time to throw the ball. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You're kind of screwed when you play defense like that. It's going to be great. I have him coming in at 30 to 40, so we're thinking the same thing again after next season. I just think that Joey Bosa is really going to be the edge one. Like I said, I think he's going to have a career year. Khalil Mack is still going to be very impactful, but maybe it won't be as in everyone's face as it will be Joey Bosa, and they're obviously going to rank him a couple spots higher. I had Bosa at 20 to 30, so a couple spots. There you go, 30 to 40. But yeah, we're thinking the same thing. Mack already has his respect, like we said. He's going to stay on this list. for this year's list and next year's list, and stick around where he's been. 23, really high. There's probably lists in Mack's career where he's in the top 5. I don't know for sure, but I'm sure that there is one, at least 1 year, the defensive player of the year that he was in the top 5. All right, ready for Keenan Allen?
Yep.
Let's do it. Keenan Allen. Last year, he was ranked 55, and I went up 22 because this is what I'm talking about, the players respecting. Keenan Allen didn't have this crazy year in 2020 in Herbert's rookie year. He actually missed a couple games. I think he barely broke 1,000 yards. But at a certain point, you break that respect barrier, and Keenan Allen broke it and went up 22 slots. He always was like a 70-plus guy on these lists, but finally they put him on there after his 5th straight 1,000-yard season. Tony, you think he's going to stay around that 55 spot? I agree with you for the upcoming season. I actually have the exact same number as you. That's pretty crazy. So I did these separate without looking at yours. And what do you think? Keenan Allen, 55?
Yeah, so I think this year it's probably closer to 55. I'd have him somewhere 56 to 58 if I had to narrow it. This is honestly what I think for Keenan Allen, and I love what you're saying. They are respecting the man's skills because NFL wide receivers and DBs know how hard it is to cover him, and they know how hard it is to get to his ability. But I do think we're going to see the numbers start to plateau because of the options in this offense. We kept asking for a bigger back. Somehow Isaiah Spiller, who has the ability to catch the ball too, is also going to be a factor in the receiving game. Gerald Everett, who's younger, right? At least 3 tight ends that can all catch the ball. The emergence of Mr. Hasua Palmer right here is going to happen. So I think if we see that, and there's no slight in plateau. Like, I'm not like saying he's falling off a cliff. I'm just saying 90 catches and 1,000 yards is right there. That's 6 to 8 TDs. That's still a Pro Bowl season, but I don't see like a spike in his numbers in year 10 where all of a sudden Keenan Allen puts up a 1,500 yard season, 100. Like, he's not going to have one of those Devontae Adams type seasons, nor does he need to because of all the options there. I think Mike Williams got the big payday, and the idea is going to be Mike is 1, Keenan is 2, and then we start looking at the other options in the offense. So he'll stay in this mid-tier area of the top 100 for a few more seasons.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I even have him staying in the same tier for the upcoming season after 2022. I've kind of had a revelation with like fantasy football and the Chargers wide receiving weapons. Ekeler's kind of the one that I'm getting the most, but I've realized that the reason that Keenan Allen isn't going to put up these crazy numbers anymore is, and I think he already has plateaued. I think that he's already hit his spot where he's going to 90, 1,000, 90, 1,000, 90, 1,000 every single year. But I think that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen complement each other so well. Mike can stretch the field deep. He can run deep crossers. He can take jump balls. He can take the red zone work. But Keenan Allen does all the underneath stuff. And I keep saying to people that they're going to keep doing that. They're not just going to stop. They did it with Phillip Rivers. Now they're doing it with Justin Herbert, and they're going to keep doing that. And for fantasy football purposes and for probably this list's purposes, that's going to lead to both of these guys splitting numbers. If Keenan Allen was by himself in this offense, then yeah, he can have 1,200, 1,300 yards. But he's not. And he's not going to be able to do all the things that Mike Williams does. And they're still going to use Mike Williams to do those things. So in fantasy football and on this list, try and find receivers for teams that do all of those things for their teams is what I'm trying to say. That's all. I'm not trying to put a knock on Keenan Allen. But if I know that when we're in a situation 2nd and 2, we're going to take a shot, it's going to Mike every time. Every time.
Yeah. Well, yep. So I want to add 2 things. One, I think Keenan gets, when he does feel like DBs or coverage is sleeping on him, he'll slip behind him and get downfield 20 yards and make those plays. We saw it against Dallas. There was another play against Kansas City where he just kind of like, skirts on a little drag route, and then the drags start getting deeper. They start being 12, 14-yard drag routes with Herbert on the run, and then we're hitting the smoke show for that. The other thing about Herbert, and this is what makes him so great, is he is not reliant or beholden to one receiver. He will distribute the ball to the right player, the right read, the right everything, and we want that to continue to progress. Because even Tom Brady with Randy Moss had his best statistical season. They did not end up winning the Super Bowl. He won Super Bowls with guys like Deion Branch and Chris Hogan. not Randy Moss, which is the craziest maybe statistic of Tom Brady's career.
Yeah, that is pretty insane. They went to the Super Bowl and lost, of course. Yeah, Keenan's one of my favorite players of all time. I'm not trying to knock Keenan. We're speaking facts, speaking the truth, and giving our actual opinions on how we think it's going to go
He's
down.
a Hall of Famer, and I can't wait for it.
I can't wait to. The perfect situation is that number 5 does really emerge as a 1 or a 2 style wide receiver, and they can go to Keenan after this contract and say, hey, we need you to take a half discount, bring it down to $10 million a year, but we're going to move you to the slot, and that is going to help his longevity in the NFL by $1 million if he's just a pure slot receiver. That'd be perfect for him. Anyways, next player. This one is another interesting one. Derwin James. 2021 wasn't on the list, of course. He was injured in 2020. But here's the prediction for the upcoming season. Derwin just had an all-pro level year. He got snubbed from the all-pro team, obviously. Made the Pro Bowl, though. So what do you think, Tony? Derwin James is another guy where I think he earned his respect last year.
So I think 2 things. One, I think you may actually be a little low on the future for him, right?
Yeah.
And I would like to have him higher as to where I think he will end up. But for some reason, he just seems to be not underappreciated, I guess, by the league, by the media, but not so much by the players. The players know who he is. So I think that factoring into this area of where he is, kind of like you're looking at who are the other safeties that would be on that level, like Minka Fitzpatrick, maybe like Jesse Bates just had a good run to the Super Bowl. But do we think that either of those players are as good as Derwin? I don't believe that at all. Mm-hmm. So if he really does have that kind of year that Staley wants to set him up for, and when you go back, Mike, and you watch how they played with him at FanFest, do you remember when we were there and it was whoa, look at this defense. Derwin was all over in that. And then they had a couple of injuries early on and it was we can't do that. Even Alohi Gilman was hurt at the beginning of the year. And it was well, Derwin's just got to get back to the center of the field because you can't have Nas and Campbell by themselves out there. You have to have somebody else. And I think that was a big reason to why we ended up drafting JT. But I think he slots somewhere closer to 35 this year, 37-ish. And next year, we get sacks, we get interceptions, we get a bunch of tackles. I think we could be top 15.
I wouldn't be shocked. Well, I was thinking here when I said 25 to 35 after next year's year, I'm imagining Derwin has a similar year next year that he had last year, which is, like I said, an all-pro level year. It might be a little bit of a hot take. I don't know if we've talked about it. I think Joey Bosa is going to be our best defensive player next year. I think he's definitely going to be the guy that is looked at as a defensive player of the year candidate if we're going to pick anyone off the defensive line, just because they have more opportunities to make big plays, to have strip sacks and all that kind of stuff. It's the safety position. But I could see him as high as that. In the 2021 list, the highest safety was Budda Baker at 19. So can Derwin be better than Budda Baker was in 2020? Hell yes, and get above 19. So I agree with you that he could be higher. I was thinking 25, 35 because I feel like our best defensive player is going to be Bosa. I have Bosa finishing around 20, so maybe Derwin's a couple spots behind him. That's just trying to stay consistent is all, Tony. But I agree with you. I can see him inside top 15. For all we know, Derwin could be the guy that ends up being up for defensive player of the year from us.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is between those two guys, really. Mm-hmm. I think it is between Bosa and Derwin as the two players that I could see. And obviously, Khalil Mack stays healthy. He's there. He's going to be right there, too, with the opportunity to put up really huge numbers.
Yeah, let us know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think about this topic with Derwin James and Joey Bosa? Who's going to be our best defensive player next year? All right, speaking of really good defensive players, J.C. Jackson, 2021 was at 49. Tony, you have him in between 45 and 55, similar this year. It makes sense because he had a similar year. What's your thought process here, Tony, and him staying in the same spot here in August for the upcoming list?
Yeah, so I really originally I had him a little bit higher. When I was filling out my list, I had him between 30 and 40. Then I backed it out a little bit because I feel like some of the players are going to have that same sort of bias narrative. Is he that guy without Bill Belichick, right? Mm-hmm. Did Bill kind of – and when they're factoring that in, is that weighing in on them maybe ranking him closer to 40 as opposed to 30?
Mm-hmm.
Every highlight I watch, every time somebody puts it up there, I'm like, why did we not really hear about him after his first year as a starter?
Yeah.
Right. It was sort of like, oh, well, Bill just pulled magic out of the hat. Can he duplicate it? Then he does duplicate it. And it's like, why? Well, why isn't he signing him? Well, because Bill doesn't give the kind of money that JC is going to command. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, they don't do that for free agents. We've seen it in the past with other players. So I think he has a great year. I think he's going to have tons of opportunity because I believe the Chargers can have some leads and teams are going to need to throw the football to move it. Last year, a lot of teams were able to pick up the third downs and keep the chains moving and stuff like that. And I think there's going to be some restless offensive coordinators being like, hey, we have to force feed Devontae Adams. Interception, J.C. Jackson to the house. Money Smith losing his mind on the call.
That sounds amazing. That sounds like music to my ears right there. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's interesting where JC is going to end up on the list this year and for next year. I have him falling back just a little bit because I have hindsight that replicating what he's been doing is almost impossible. And what he's been doing got him to 49 and is going to have him around there again on this year's list. If J.C. Jackson has 5 interceptions next year and a bunch of pass defenses and he isn't getting toasted and he's locking down receivers, holding them below 60 yards, like J.C. Jackson is still going to be J.C. Jackson. He's the same level player as he was in New England. But how can you keep getting 9-10 interceptions every season? I don't know how much higher he can go on the list other than if he actually is like the best cornerback undisputedly in football next year. And also I think in our defense, we're going to see teams throw away from him a lot. And I think, maybe the Raiders will go at him because it's Devontae Adams, but with Asante Samuel Jr. being a little bit of a smaller corner, maybe they'll try and pick on him a little bit, and that leads to him getting some interceptions. I wouldn't be shocked if like JC has 6 interceptions and Asante has like 4. He's like not that much behind him. But yeah, we're thinking the same ranking pretty much this year and next year. Maybe I have a slight slide just because I'm like, I don't understand how he can get any better than he is and get any more respect than he's gotten than taking away the ball 25 times in 3 seasons.
Yeah, I don't see him falling as far as you do, just based on because even when they start to go away from you, that garners you more respect with the players. When people start being like, when you have that shutdown corner, legit, half the field is off limits because of this one player, it brings you like a certain level of clout, and I think that's the next level for J.C. Jackson, right? Can he have that Revis Island, that young Jalen Ramsey, Deion Sanders, Champ Bailey, that type of feel? Can he have that where it's like, oh, we don't even go near him?
Yeah. We'll see which way he goes. If he stays where he's at, he stays where he's at. He's doing great. If he takes that next step into all-time level, he's probably gonna go up on the list. Interesting. Again, these are hard to call, guys. So go ahead and leave your opinions in the comments below. We got a few more left here. Next up, big center, Corey Linsley. 2021, he was ranked at 60 after his performance with the Green Bay Packers in 2020. Tony, last year, of course, Linsley made first team All-Pro. You got him at 70 to 80. That's kind of similar to last year, but what you're thinking here?
Yeah, I think that's kind of right there because although they had a top 5 offense, it wasn't for the rushing side of it, right? And are the players going to look around and say, look at the jump Justin Herbert made in his second year because of the value of the offensive line? Are the players going to look around and give the credit, not all the credit, but some credit to how well Rashawn Slater was able to play, right? The offensive line seems to be the thing that all Chargers fans seem to worry about the most, like the right side of the offensive line. But I just think that having somebody like Corey Linsley in the middle is like, you have an anchor. You have this player there. So I see him 71, all-pro caliber, Pro Bowler every year, just the stud that you want in the center of your line. And could just live there until he retires.
Exactly, and that's what he's going to do too for us. Yeah, and I think he's the highest ranked center in 2021 at 60. I want to say. So if you're the highest, you're the best center in the league. Basically, is what the players are saying, and you only get to 60. How much higher can you go? I got 60 to 70 also, Tony. I feel like he does deserve some credit for what the O-line did last year, and I think that Rashawn Slater's success can be linked back to Filer and to Linsley being on his right side. So. Yeah, Linsley's going to be up there. All right, here's another interesting one, Tony. Let's go on to Rashawn Slater. Let's talk about this one. All-Pro rookie year, very rare, almost unheard of. All-Pro rookie year for Rashawn Slater last year. Where do you put him on your first list? NFL top 100 voters. I don't know, but Tony, you got him between 50 and 60. I also went 50 and 60 for next year. What do you think?
So I think he's probably down towards the end of 50, 60, like between 57 and 59. And I just think to come in, play left tackle, it's one of the premium positions. We talk about it all the time. You got to have an edge rusher. You got to have a left tackle. You got to have a quarterback to win in this league. He came in at a super demanding position and was named All-Pro. Mm. That alone, to me, puts him in the top, 60, easy, that right there. And then it's like, what other left tackles are factoring in? I think there is room for improvement, when there's a repeat performance. Every time I read something, they're like, yeah, he's working with an offensive line coach. And it's like the best thing I've ever heard, right? Because just because you had all this success in your rookie year, he's looking at his tape going, oh man, I could get so much better. I could get stronger. I could get smarter. My anticipation, my recognition could get better. It's like, thank you. Like, love your job that much. It makes me love the team that much more. So I think somewhere in that 57 to 59 is a great way to get onto this, list in your first time around.
Yeah, I think that I agree that he's going to be somewhere in there. Broncos fans, Garrett Bowles. Raiders fans, Colton Miller. Chiefs fans, what's that guy's name again? Orlando Brown Jr. This guy, this rookie, this little boy outperformed all those veteran tackles that you guys got in the rest of the division. I'm just saying. I got him at 50 to 60, and I think that might be a little bit low now. I'm thinking about it again. But he could go up close to 30, but he's got to be like the best viewed from the players, the best left tackle in football, because Trent Williams, I think, was at like 27 or something as the highest left tackle ranked last year or in 2021's rankings. We'll see where he lands on the list this year. How high he lands on the list this year, I think, is going to kind of determine how high he can go next year, because it's just one more year of doing the same exact thing. Yeah, he's going to raise a few spots, but that respect thing, that carries over into years 3, 4, 5 usually, when you've been doing it for an entire contract almost.
I'll say this one last thing about Rashawn Slater. Had he gotten to go up against TJ Watt in that that Sunday night game, I could see him being top 50 easy this year. If he had that tape for them to be putting on and saying, oh, look what he did, and not just go up against him, but had a good game, good game against TJ Watt. Now all of a sudden it's like, wait, he did this against Watt, and he played, these other pass rushers too. Like, let's push him up the list somewhere around, 40, 45 to 50. But duplicate what you did last year. And as a fan, that's all I really care about. You come back like that, I'm ready to go.
Tony, I was at the Browns game last year. Myles Garrett started rushing for like the whole first half on Slater's side. And in the second half, he didn't. I wonder why. Anyways, last one. This is the most spicy one, the interesting one.
No, we got two more.
We have two more? Oh, I only have one more, Tony, so we'll just talk about the last one.
Okay, we'll talk about the last one.
Yeah, but here we go. Mike Williams. You got him at 85 to 95 for this list in August, which I think could happen. Mike just had a career year, breakout year. A couple games that really make you go, wow, that's an insane game. That's an insane stat line. In 2021, obviously wasn't on the list. Following the 2020 season, I think he dealt with a little bit of injuries, but it's just hard to get on the list as a receiver when Keenan Allen's on the team, outshining you a little bit. Mike outshined Keenan a little bit last year. What are you thinking here, Tony? 85-95 seems squeaking in.
So I think he's probably Allen Robinson was 86 last year or whatever. Mike Williams is coming off 9 touchdowns, 1,200 yards, 75 plus receptions, like big time receiver, caught game winning touchdowns, explosive fourth quarter plays. I'm thinking about the Steelers game. I'm thinking about the first week 4 matchup against the Chiefs to get down there in overtime, right? Then we got the Cleveland game, making some huge catches in that game. And then in week 18, balling out against the Raiders. And if he had any more juice left in his body, he hits that edge and probably scores, right? But I get it. He's burnt and he's tired and he gave everything he had. And I love the man. I cheered for him. It's wonderful stuff. I think he deserves to be on this list after last year. And I think forecasting that he won't be off, are you trying to protect your fandom? Because I think Mike Williams is in for a huge, are you trying not to jinx him having a monster season? Because I think this year it's Mike's, this is the year where people are talking about, oh, did you see the catch Mike made in last week's game?
I have such a love, not a hate. I just have such a back and forth relationship with my feelings for Mike Williams, just because it just seems like he always has just been right there at the ceiling, and he finally broke it last year. He had a career year last year. He did it. I just feel like every single season, it's probably gonna be like this first career. I've basically accepted this. Everything kind of has to go right for Mike to make it on this list, and I'm mostly saying with the health. I still could see Mike missing 4 games next year. I really could, or 5 games. And knock on wood, don't want it to happen. I want Mike to have the same year as he did last year. But even last year, like you said, that Raiders game, dealing with a hamstring injury. I mean, and there's games where we had to put him out there as a decoy because of the hamstring injury. What he was doing early in the season showed that Mike has the potential to be a top 15, top 10 wide receiver. It just has to all be going right for him to be able to make that happen. And how many years in a row? I don't know. So, yeah, I am playing it safe a little bit here. I think that he is going to be right at the edge again. And I think that this offense, we're going to see Josh Palmer have a lot more involvement than last year. And we're going to see Keenan Allen do what he does every single year. And Mike's going to have a similar year to last year, maybe a little bit less numbers-wise, if everything goes perfect. That's kind of what I'm thinking. My Mike thing is up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. It's so painful, and I'm glad we got him for the price we got him, because if we had to pay 25 for him, I might not have been on board.
So I feel the same way, and you know this. Our personal conversations are things that I tend not to put on here, but I've been up and down. I've been aggravated with drop balls and whatever, But this is a place for me to be strictly a cheerleader. And so what I'm saying for Mike Williams is they continue to expand the ways that they use him, and that he doesn't drop as many balls this year, and that he does play 15 plus games. And if that happens, I have no doubt that he'll be right back in there around 80 to 75, maybe even higher, depending on how the numbers shake out. But he deserves to be on the list this year, and I hope that he's recognized in that sort of 85 to 90 range for sure.
And also, you were telling me before the show started that guys like Allen Robinson and Cole Beasley squeaked onto the previous list. Mike Williams had a better season than those guys did in 2020. Yes. So yeah, he definitely deserves a spot on the list this year for sure. I've got this challenge on the table for all the Chargers players. I'm sure all of them watch the show. I now have a Khalil Mack jersey. I have a Derwin James jersey. I have a Joey Bosa jersey. I have a Herbert jersey. I have Keenan Allen jerseys. If you make the Pro Bowl, I will buy your jersey. Same thing for Mike. Same thing for Trey frickin' Pipkins. Make the Pro Bowl, and I'll buy your jersey, and I will be not having you off my top 100 list.
Pip Daddy. Pip Daddy. I can't wait.
It's on the table. All right, there was one more, Tony. It's my fault if I messed up not getting the graphic ready, but who was the one more you were going to?
All good. Austin Ekeler.
Austin Ekeler, yep.
I think – I don't remember if he made the list previously or not. Maybe after the big year a couple years ago when he got the contract, he may it, but I don't think he did. He deserves to be on this list. He should have been second team All-Pro behind Jonathan Taylor last year. He had 65, 70 catches. He had 1,500 all-purpose yards and 20 touchdowns. The guy did everything had monster games when they were necessary against the Chiefs, against the Browns, against the Steelers. Like it's not super impressive, like the way that it looks. It's not Derrick Henry stiff arming somebody or Jonathan Taylor just, boat racing human beings, but it is efficient and effective. And I don't like the fact that he wouldn't be on this list somewhere in between, 96 to 98 at least, right? Like you can't have somebody who just, when he's out there and he's healthy, he's productive, and he's a big part of the number 5 offense. Like, you could make an argument that he's right there with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and the other offensive line components as to what makes this thing go because of all the different ways they use him, lining him up at wide receiver. Like, legit just splitting him out wide and having him run actual routes. So I want to see Austin Ekeler make this list. That would be number 10. In the top 100 right there.
Yeah, 20 touchdowns is the big number. I mean, that's an accomplishment right there. 20 touchdowns. Be able to stay healthy for an entire season and be scoring almost, touchdown and a half a game, but close to 2 touchdowns a game for an entire season is very impressive out of Eck right there, man. He's got to be on the list. And I wish that the way that they did the voting for the all-pro votes was, if it's a unanimous, like it was in Jonathan Taylor's situation, they do a second vote for who gets the second spot. And Jonathan Taylor still gets his unanimous crown, and someone else gets second team all-pro.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It's not – It
would have been Ekeler, right? It would have been Ekeler if they did a second vote and they voted for the second spot.
Yeah, I mean, I could have heard an argument for Najee Harris. Right, he had a solid year. Joe Mixon is another guy that I could have entertained an argument for, whatever. I still would have put Ekeler ahead of both of those players, but I don't like leaving a category blank. Like it just doesn't. Yeah. It just feels dumb. It's like why even have a second team if you're going to leave one spot blank? As if he's just good enough to fill up first and second team, then you should have him listed as first and second team All Pro. Jonathan on the first and Taylor on the second team, or whatever dumb rationale you want to use. Don't have a team and leave a spot blank.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Man, just imagine like if that wasn't a thing. How many D tackles could have won all pros? None of them have won all pros because Aaron Donald just unanimous it every single season. But how many would have all pros? You're taking them away from people.
Yeah, you should. It shouldn't be. Honestly, I don't really like the all-pro thing, the voting for it or whatever, because there's certain players where I look at it and I'm like, wait, that person was only named to the all-pro one time? Like, how does it work that person who dominated football for 7-8 years in a row only had one all-pro?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
That's insane. All right, Tony, real quick. We're already at minute 43. It's a long episode, but thank you guys for tuning in. Those are still here. Who are some guys that might be a little bit of a surprise? We just went over our 10 stars, basically, which
yes,
10 stars. Okay, but who are some guys that might be a little bit of a surprise to see on the top 100 list, either this year or next year?
So I'll go with mine, and I think defensively we are about to witness something incredible. Like I see it. I know everybody's like, it's on paper and it's got to come together. I'm sorry. I just feel like Sebastian Joseph Day is in one of the best situations you could ever be in. The fact that you're going to have to be looking at like, oh, well, let's put a tight end over here to help out with Khalil Mack. Well, we'll have the guard go this way to help the tackle with Joey Bosa. And now all of a sudden somebody of the skill set of Sebastian Joseph Day is going to get one-on-ones with guards or centers who are starting with their heads down or like having to snap a ball and then come up and block this kid. Mm-hmm. It feels like an opportunity for him to put up a bunch of sacks, a bunch of QB pressures, and just like he got to study and play next to Aaron Donald. And it wasn't like he was a scrub or didn't do anything. He had an unfortunate injury, but I love his talent, his motor. He's just so joyful, like jubilation. Like, I don't know what the right word is for when you watch him live life and enjoy things. It's infectious, and I'm excited for him. And I could see him making this list as an outsider like a low 80s to 90s player on the list in 2023.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. That's a good shout to give. He's gonna have a lot of opportunity for tackles too, because still, when you look around and you go, where are you gonna attack this team? It's gonna be in the run game. You have to try and attack them in the run game because you ain't gonna throw into a JC Derwin secondary. And if Asante becomes the player I think he's gonna become, now you're really screwed. Like, there is no options. You can't go anywhere with the football in the pass game.
You got to step up in that pocket too, because you have Mack, Bosa, or even Rumpf or Kyle Van Noy. You have somebody always coming off the edge, and you go to step up, and you're getting a face full of Sebastian Joseph right there.
I like it. I'm gonna go with Asante Samuel Jr. You know what a big fan of his game I am. He's got that pit bull mentality. Kind of reminds me of some of my favorite corners that I've ever watched play the game. And I think that he's going to have a big year this year because they're going to throw at him a lot. I'm okay with those few mistakes that he makes and he gets burnt every once in a while if he's majority of the time swatting balls down and taking balls away. Because I will take your aggressive play style and let you be yourself before I try and lessen that aggression, and that brings your whole game down with it. No, I want Asante to be what he was last year when he was on the field. I know he got toasted by a guy here and he got toasted by a guy there. That's okay. That guy is out there playing his ass off. I'm telling you, when I watch him play, I see a guy that is playing at full speed, loves the game, and I'm really rooting for him next year to have a big year and really shine in this secondary, especially down the stretch and especially against really good teams with good passing offenses, because they're going to be going after him.
Yeah, I love it. I'm here for it. I think he's going to have a great year. And like you said, people are going to be looking to go, we need an easier option, let's see what we got over there.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments some guys that you think maybe might deserve a shout out. You can steal some of ours as well. You can go ahead and say SJD if you have a different opinion on why it's going to be SJD or Asante Samuel Jr. or anyone. I mean, Zion Johnson is an answer for this too. That's someone you could think about maybe having a Rashawn Slater like year, and all of a sudden he's on the list in his first year. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to see this list come out in August. I thought that this list had already come out. So me and Tony worked all that out before the show. So now I'm starting to get pumped to see where all our guys land, Tony. I'm ready for that 10% prediction to come true.
Yes, I think I'm very confident that these 10 players we have are going to be on that, are going to make that list.
I think so too. I'm pretty pumped for it. All right. Any last words, Tony? Call it a show?
No, call it. Get out of here.
Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Please, before you go, do this real quick for us. It'll help out the channel. It'll help out the show, and it'll get this content to you guys on a weekly and even daily. On daily, I lost my train of thought there, Tony. So we're gonna have to edit that out. But
are we?
For more Chargers content, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. See you next time here on Nuts and Bolts. Next Friday night, 5 p.m. See you there.
San Diego Chargers are fortunate to have Lance Allworth.
On Blue Ridge.